everyone, Comic Reviewer here, this time reviewing on All New X-Men, issue number 1. Now, as you know, All New X-Men was meant to be a story featuring younger X-Men in the present day and seeing what their future selves will become. And the cover you mainly have is the X-Men in their original black and yellow uniforms, and kind of gives you that glimpse of what's going to happen. And the story mainly starts off with Hank McCoy struggling with his new mutation, even though he's fought the previous one before, and takes a serum to make himself feel better. So Aurora contacts him and says, "Yes, Aurora, I hear you. You're going to want to see this." And so we're introduced in Australia, where a young girl named Ava is being introduced by her friend to the guy that she likes, and they do hit it off well until her overprotective brother Steven shows up saying, "What the hell are you got out here?" Yeah, Ava. "Oh my gosh, what is wrong with you, Steven?" "Oh, calm down. Bro, you don't touch her." "Why is this?" "She's my sister." "Okay, she's your sister, not your pet." "You don't touch her." And so, yeah, given the fact that the guy she hit on isn't exactly going to stop, and given the fact that he has friends, they're not exactly going to go easy on him, and this is why you should pick your fights carefully. So suddenly her mutant powers kick in when she tells him to stop, and freezes time around her, and she wonders what is going on, until she's met by Scott Summers, Emma Frost, and Magneto, who point out that she's a mutant, and Magneto says, "You have a special power. Over time, and spare it would seem, you saw something you didn't like, and you stopped it." "I did." And Scott Summers points out that, he's going to make things right, he's going to make the world a better place, and they do point out that since her mutant powers speeded time to 20 minutes, it will eventually become daytime, which eventually does. So the Australian forces show up, and you kind of expect Steven to try and defend her or try and call it off, but Magneto mainly breaks off the guns, and Scott Summers, Emma Frost, and Magneto mainly try and stop it. So the team mainly see what Scott Summers is doing at the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning, and Iceman is pretty much shocked and even appalled at what Scott Summers has become, because he didn't think he was going to get like this. And Iceman says, when we were young, we always worried about a mutant apocalypse nightmare. So, meanwhile, at a police station, a young mutant named Christopher, who can bring the dead back to life, is being confronted by a policewoman, and this is kind of like, it makes you feel like, yeah, this is the 1950s, but suddenly, Scott Summers shows up with guns blazing, and pretty much points out on a camera that he's going to make that every mutant deserves freedom, and that they are the X-Men, and they stand together. So the X-Men pretty much have to try and stop Scott Summers, and Iceman's like, "What do we do? We get Wolverine and the rest of us, and we suit up and confront him, shut him down? No. And Aurora justifiably points out that she can't have a mutant Silver Wall and another incident like this with the Phoenix Force. So pretty much Aurora lets her emotions get the better of her, and thankfully Iceman calms her down and warns her that if she did it again, they would end up back in Oz. So Iceman points out that, that if the past Scott Summers saw this, then he would pretty much talk with him, confront him, and pretty much reason with him. And Iceman's like, "Right? Henry, are you hurt?" "Just tired. On many levels." Bobby, I don't think I've ever said these words to you before in my entire life, but you're right. Not sure about which part I'm right, but I'll take it. And you got Kitty Pryde and Storm wondering what he means. So we're introduced back to the past where Scott Summers is writing a letter to Jean Grey, and you've got the past versions of Hank and Bobby wanting to call it quits, and that they got attacked by a mob. And this is a moment where you can tell Scott is trying to be reasonable, trying to get the past version of Hank to, see reason. And he's like, days like this, I see why Magneto and his evil mutants do what they do. They might be right. Homo sapiens just aren't worth it. Oh, come on, Hank. You can't possibly mean what you're saying. So, just as Hank mainly walks out, they are mainly confronted with the future version of Hank, and you see Jean Grey and Angel as well in the background, and Hank points out that he needs Scott Summers to come with him, and they mainly think it's their kids, but they're wrong, and he says, I need you to stop yourself from committing mutant genocide. And this is a moment where you can tell the X-Men are looks a bit surprised, and if not, really wondering what happens in the future. And this is the story. So, what do I think of all new, all different X-Men? I would say it's definitely a good start, because I think somewhere Scott Summers does kind of become a bit like Magneto, and I kind of expected the past versions of the X-Men to wear kind of early 90s outfits, not the kind of ones that they had in the 60s. I get it, they could be school uniforms and that, and I kind of wish with Ava's brother you could have had him more around, and this was his only appearance. So the story starts off as a good start, and a message about bringing your past self here, and what to tell them of what could happen. So the story deserves a thumbs up. Still good, and still alright. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.